Subscribe to LearnCap and hit the bell icon to get notified.
Friends, the next discussion is with regard to the contents of tax invoice. Rule number 46, which speaks about contents of tax invoice. There are two amendments. Let us discuss them one by one. So the first one, 46 sub rule R, which speaks about contents of tax invoice. A tax invoice shall contain a quick reference code having embedded an invoice reference number in case if invoice has been issued in the manner prescribed under 48 sub rule 4. So friends, it simply tells you, if you read it in the reverse order, wherever 48 sub rule 4 is applicable, that particular invoice shall contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it. Now friends, what is invoice reference number? How to obtain that? Those things we'll be discussing. But first let us discuss what is 48 sub rule 4. Because only when 48 sub rule 4 is applicable, that particular invoice should contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number. If 48 sub rule 4 itself is not applicable, the question of invoice reference number and QR code doesn't arise at all. So friends, let's see what is 48 sub rule 4. Now before proceeding to 48 sub rule 4, let's have a brief look at 48 sub rule 1, sub rule 2 and sub rule 3. 48 sub rule 1, the invoice shall be prepared in triplicate in case of supply of goods, original for the recipient, duplicate for the transporter and triplicate for the supplier. 48 sub rule 2, the invoice shall be prepared in duplicate in case of supply of services. Naturally, for supply of services, there is not going to be any transporter. So, you have original for the recipient and duplicate for the supplier. 48 sub rule 3, the serial number of invoices issued during a tax period shall be furnished electronically through the common portal in form GSTR 1. So, for a particular tax period, whatever serial number of invoices which you have used, you need to furnish it in form GSTR 1. Now friends, comes 48 sub rule 4. Friends, please understand the objective behind we discussing 48 sub rule 4. This objective is very important to understand, because if 48 sub rule 4 is applicable to you, then the invoice which is issued by you, should contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it. What is invoice reference number? How do we obtain it? We'll see that. But first let us see what is 48 sub rule 4. 48 sub rule 4, friends, just read the yellow portions which are highlighted along with me. The invoice shall be prepared by such class of registered persons as may be notified by the government after obtaining an invoice reference number by uploading information contained therein on the Common Goods and Services Tax electronic portal. So friends, what is 48 sub rule 4 telling you? 48 sub rule 4 tells you, for notified persons should prepare an invoice only after obtaining an invoice reference number from the common portal. So friends, one thing is clear, that invoice reference number cannot be, an invoice reference number is not prepared by the taxpayer himself. It is not the serial number of invoice which the taxpayer or the registered person himself prepares it. This particular invoice reference number needs to be obtained from the Common Goods and Services Tax electronic portal. So friends, it is a serial number which is given to you by the common portal. You yourself cannot create this. So this thing we are pretty clear. But how we obtain that? How do we obtain this invoice reference number from the common portal? So friends, there is a form called as form GST INV01. Form GST INV01. This form needs to be filled. The particulars which are there needs to be given, and it needs to be uploaded to the common portal. The common portal in turn would give you an invoice reference number. Now friends, who should do this? This should be done by a class of registered persons who are notified by the government. Which means, is it applicable to everyone? The answer is no. 48 sub rule 4 is applicable only to notified persons. Those notified persons shall first obtain an invoice reference number, and only then they would be in a position to prepare an invoice. Are we clear? The answer is yes, friends. So now the invoice shall be prepared by the class of registered persons only after obtaining an invoice reference number by uploading some details in form GST INV 01 on the common portal. Now friends, what if you don't do that? You are a registered person who is notified for the purpose of 48 sub rule 4. Your invoice should be prepared only after obtaining an invoice reference number from the common portal, but you fail to do so. You did not obtain an invoice reference number from the common portal. You prepare an invoice and give it to your recipient. Please read 48 sub rule 5. What are the consequences of not following 48 sub rule 4? Every invoice issued by a person to whom sub rule 4 applies in any manner other than the manner specified in the said sub rule, which means you are not complying with the rule, shall not be treated as an invoice. Such a harsh provision. Friends, we have prepared an invoice. Everything is there. GST number of the supplier, recipient, invoice number, invoice date. You are a person who is notified for the purpose of 48 sub rule 4, but you did not obtain an invoice reference number from the common portal. Your invoice is not a valid invoice. Meaning thereby, it would be treated, even though you have issued a document, even though you might have uploaded it in your GST returns, still it would be treated as though you are supplying goods without an invoice. The reason being, if 48 sub rule 4 is applicable to you and if you have not complied with it, your invoice shall not be treated as an invoice. So now friends, please understand one thing. This invoice reference number, is it created by the registered person himself? Who creates the serial number of invoice? The serial number of invoice is created and fixed by the registered person himself. But who gives the invoice reference number? Please understand, serial number of the invoice is different from the invoice reference number. Invoice reference number would be given to you by the common portal. Now friends, how do you get it from the common portal? You have to fill a form and upload it called as form GST INV01. You give this input to the portal gives you an output in the form of invoice reference number. Do you need to have internet connectivity for that? The answer is yes. Now friends, what could happen in cases where, let's say, internet connectivity is being suspended? Let's say in some particular areas due to communal disharmony, the government has suspended internet connectivity. Are you in a position to obtain an invoice reference number? The answer is no. Without internet connectivity, you cannot do so. But can you stop your business? The answer is no. You will be supplying goods. You will be issuing an invoice. 48 sub rule 5 tells you that is not a valid invoice. Please see the proviso to 48 sub rule 4. Do you find any solution for it? It tells you, provided that the commissioner may, on the recommendations of council by notification, exempt a person or class of registered persons from issuance of invoice under this sub rule, that is 48 sub rule 4, for a specified period, subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be specified. So friends, here the commissioner has got the power that he can relax for some specified period for a class of registered persons, that they are exempted from 48 sub rule 4. So now friends, I hope you are clear with 48 sub rule 4 and 48 sub rule 5. 48 sub rule 6. The provisions of sub rule 1 and sub rule 2. What was sub rule 1 and sub rule 2? Sub rule 1 told you, for supply of goods, invoice to be prepared in triplicate. For supply of services, invoice to be prepared in duplicate. So the provisions of sub rules 1 and sub rule 2 shall not apply to an invoice which is prepared in the manner specified in sub rule 4, which means that if you are preparing an invoice in the manner specified in 48 sub rule 4, what is the manner specified in 48 sub rule 4? For notified persons, upload GST INV01, obtain invoice reference number. And that invoice reference number, only after obtaining that invoice reference number, an invoice can be issued. This is the manner which is prescribed in 48 sub rule 4. For those cases, invoice need not be prepared in triplicate. Invoice need not be prepared in duplicate. Friends, this is popularly called as e-invoice. This is popularly called as e-invoice. An invoice which is prepared in the manner prescribed under 48 sub rule 4 is called as e-invoice. Now friends, what is the common portal from where you are supposed to obtain an invoice reference number? The common portal happens to be, there are 10 websites which are available: www.einvoice1.gst.gov.in, ranging till www.einvoice10.gst.gov.in. Friends, so these websites are managed by Goods and Services Tax Network. So friends, these are the common portals. The common portal is not your regular one, www.gst.gov.in, where registration, return filing, refund is happening. It is also not the common portal from where you generate an e-way bill, www.ewaybillgst. That also is not the website. This website is a separate one, www.einvoice1.gst.gov.in. From here, you need to obtain an invoice reference number. So now we go, friends, applicability. So far what we have seen, let's stop for a moment. We started with contents of tax invoice. Contents of tax invoice told you that the tax invoice shall contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it in case if invoice is issued in the manner prescribed under 48 sub rule 4. On reading 48 sub rule 4, it further told you for notified persons, invoice shall be prepared after obtaining an invoice reference number from the common portal. We have seen what is the common portal. Now friends, now we are going to see who are those notified persons upon whom this 48 sub rule 4 is applicable. So here we go. In exercise of the powers conferred by 48 sub rule 4, the government on the recommendations of council hereby notifies registered persons other than a special economic zone unit. I repeat, hereby notifies registered persons other than a special economic zone unit, hereby notifies a registered persons other than those who are referred in 54 sub rule 2, 3, 4, 4A. They are those insurers, banking companies, financial institutions, NBFCs, GTA, supplier of passenger transportation service and multiplex screens. So please read along, friends. Hereby notifies registered persons other than these persons whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 1718 onwards exceeds 500 crore rupees as a class of registered person who shall prepare an invoice and other prescribed documents in terms of 48 sub rule 4 in respect of supply of goods or services or both to a registered person or for exports. So friends, there's so much of content which is there in this notification. Notification 13/2020, it tells you that 48 sub rule 4 shall be applicable to whom? It shall be applicable to registered persons other than these persons. So friends, who are ruled out? SEZ unit is ruled out. Who are ruled out? These specified suppliers are ruled out. Insurers, banking companies, financial institutions, NBFCs, GTA, supply of passenger transportation services and multiplex screens, these are ruled out. And friends, registered persons other than these whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 1718 onwards exceeds 500 crore rupees. They shall be those class of registered persons who shall prepare invoice in terms of 48 sub rule 4 for all the supplies. The answer is no. For supply of goods or services or both to a registered person or in case of exports. Now friends, let's take few questions just to analyze whether this notification has synced in your mind or not. Is it applicable to all registered persons? The answer is no. It is not applicable to all registered persons. It is applicable only to those registered persons whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 1718 onwards has exceeded 500 crore rupees. So friends, is it applicable to all registered persons? The answer is no. It is not applicable to all registered persons. Is there any relaxation for any class amongst the notified registered persons? Let's suppose there is a person whose aggregate turnover is exceeding 500 crore rupees. Is there any relaxation? The answer is yes. If he happens to be a special economic zone unit or if he happens to be one of these suppliers, then this notification is not applicable to him. Resultantly, 48 sub rule 4 also is not applicable to him. Friends, please be very cautious. Who have been excluded? It is only a special economic zone unit. Special economic zone developer has not been excluded. So friends, if a special economic zone developer is having an aggregate turnover exceeding 500 crore rupees in any financial year from 1718 onwards, then 48 sub rule 4 is applicable to him. So is there any relaxation for any class amongst the notified person? The answer is yes, a special economic zone unit and these specified suppliers. The next one, is it applicable for all supplies made by these notified registered persons? The answer is no. Friends, please read. It tells you they shall prepare invoice in terms of 48 sub rule 4 in respect of supply of goods or services or both to a registered person, which means that only for B2B supplies, invoice has to be prepared in terms of 48 sub rule 4. I repeat, only for B2B supplies, invoice has to be prepared in terms of 48 sub rule 4. So friends, what have we seen so far? So far we have seen a person other than a special economic zone unit and those specified suppliers whose aggregate turnover in any financial year, preceding financial year ranging from 17-18 onwards, if it has exceeded 500 crore rupees, then for the B2B supplies which are made by him, e-invoice needs to be prepared. Is it only B2B invoice? You read further, or for exports. So friends, e-invoicing provisions will be applicable to these notified persons for B2B supplies and also for exports. Friends, can you call exports as B2B supply? Friends, please understand what is the differentiation point between B2B and B2C. If the supply is from one GST registered person to another GST registered person, it is B2B. If the supply is from one GST registered person to an unregistered person under GST, he might be a business person, never mind. He might be doing some business. Is he registered under GST? If yes, it is B2B. If no, it is B2C. Now friends, as regards as exports is concerned, let's suppose I am exporting some goods from India to USA. Whether the recipient who is there, is he registered under GST in India? The answer is no. My foreign customer is not registered under GST law in India. Is it B2B supply? The answer is no. Is it B2C supply? Yes. Whether e-invoice is applicable? Yes. Because it tells you it is applicable for supply of goods or services to a registered person or in case of exports. So friends, the question was whether is it applicable for all the supplies made by notified registered persons. The answer is no, friends. In case of B2C supplies other than exports. In case of B2C supplies other than exports, let's suppose I am a person whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year, let's say it is 1000 crore rupees. I am also not a special economic zone unit. I am also not these specified suppliers. For me, for B2C supplies, which is not exports, whether 48 sub rule 4 is applicable, the answer is no. Which means that I can issue an invoice for my B2C supplies even without obtaining an invoice reference number from the common portal. Is it also applicable for B2C supplies? Friends, it is generally no. However, the exception is exports. In case of exports, it is a B2C supply. Still, invoice reference number needs to be obtained from the common portal. Is e-invoice applicable for reverse charge mechanism supplies? This e-invoice, who has to generate? Should it be generated by the supplier or should it be generated by the recipient? Invoice reference number needs to be obtained from the common portal by the supplier and not by the recipient. Let's take few examples. Let's suppose there's a domestic tariff area. There's a business which is having a unit in domestic tariff area. The turnover is 300 crores. The very same person is also having a unit in special economic zone. The turnover of that special economic zone unit is 300 crores. Is e-invoice applicable? Now friends, please understand, for the purpose of applicability of e-invoice, I need to check what is the aggregate turnover. What is the aggregate turnover? Now aggregate turnover is nothing but your PAN-based turnover. So now friends, in this case, the PAN-based turnover happens to be 600 crores, which is exceeding the threshold. Should e-invoice be prepared? The answer is yes. However friends, is there any exclusions? The answer is yes, there is an exclusion. Special economic zone unit and those specified suppliers need not prepare an e-invoice. Now friends, in this case, this particular person's aggregate turnover is exceeding 500 crores. E-invoicing provisions are applicable. However friends, this person is having a unit in DTA and also a unit in special economic zone. So friends, for this SEZ unit, e-invoice provisions is not applicable. However friends, for this DTA unit, for the unit which is there in DTA, e-invoicing provisions are applicable. So this DTA unit has to prepare for its B2B supplies and exports, it has to prepare an e-invoice. Example number 2. There's a person who's having a unit in domestic tariff area. Now that domestic tariff area unit, its B2B supplies turnover is 300 crores. B2C supplies turnover is again 300 crores. I repeat, B2B supplies turnover is 300 crores. B2C supplies turnover is 300 crores. Whether e-invoicing provisions are applicable. Friends, for the applicability, you need to check what is the aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover is nothing but your PAN-based turnover. The PAN-based turnover happens to be 600 crores. Is it exceeding the threshold? The answer is yes. Should e-invoice be prepared? Any reference to SEZ? There is no reference to SEZ in the second example. Should e-invoice be prepared? The answer is yes. The next question is, should e-invoice be prepared for all the supplies? The answer is no. E-invoice needs to be prepared only for B2B supplies. It need not be prepared for B2C supplies. Fine. So the next question is it applicable for all supplies which are made by notified registered persons? The answer is no. It is only applicable for B2B supplies and for exports. Is it also applicable for B2C supplies? Yes, it is also applicable for B2C. Generally, the answer is no. However, the exception is exports. With respect to exports, it is also applicable. Is the invoice applicable for RCM supplies also? The answer is yes. We have already seen this. The next one, friends, coming back to 46 sub-rule R. Now, friends, we started with 46 sub-rule R. We travelled to 48 sub-rule 4. By now, we know that upon whom is 48 sub-rule 4 applicable. So, friends, we have seen 48 sub-rule 4 also. 48 sub-rule 4 told you invoice needs to be prepared only after obtaining an invoice reference number from the common portal. Of course, it is only applicable for notified persons. Now, friends, just to check whether we have understood the story so far, is an e-invoice generated from the government portal? Friends, please understand, whether e-invoice is generated from the government portal, the answer is no. Friends, invoice is generated by the taxpayer's own software. Invoice is generated by the taxpayer's own software. What does the common portal give you? The common portal gives you only an invoice reference number. Invoice will be generated. Invoice will be generated by the taxpayer's own software. The only difference is that particular invoice which is generated by the taxpayer's own software will contain a QR code which is having an embedded invoice reference number in it. Invoice is not generated from the government's portal. Only an invoice reference number is generated from the government's portal. What is IRN? What is IRN? IRN is nothing but your invoice reference number. When you fill form GST INV01 and submit it to the common portal would register that invoice. That is also called as the invoice registration portal, IRP. The invoice registration portal would register the invoice and give you a unique number. It is a 64-digit string. It would give you a unique number in the form of invoice reference number. What is a QR code? So, friends, QR code, all of us know this. All of you would have already seen this. This QR code would contain an embedded invoice reference number, which means when you are going to scan this QR code, you are going to get invoice reference number, other basic details of the invoice as to what is the GSTN of the supplier, what is the GSTN of the recipient, what is the invoice date, what is the invoice number, what is the invoice value. These details you would be getting it when you are going to scan this QR code. Now, friends, what is the process of obtaining an invoice reference number? Friends, the process is very simple. You have to fill in the particulars which are contained in form GST INV01, upload it to the invoice registration portal. Friends, the invoice registration portal would accept this form GST INV01 only in JSON format. Now, friends, how do we upload it in the common portal? Either you can upload it directly to the common portal, or your accounting software can interact with the common portal through API integration, and it can directly upload it to the common portal. Now, the common portal receives form GST INV01. What is, friends? What is form GST INV01? It is a standard template which is available. It is a standard template. You can call it as a schema. It is a standard template containing the prescribed details of the invoice. You have to fill them. It is a standardized template. You have to upload it in the JSON form either directly or through your accounting software to the common portal. The common portal, when it is going to receive this, it is going to have a check with the GST portal. Friends, please understand, now this common portal which we are discussing is your invoice registration portal. It is a separate common portal than your regular GST portal where the return filing etc. is being done. So friends, now this invoice registration portal is going to check the details of invoice. It is going to carry out a deduplication check with the GST portal. What do you mean by deduplication check? Deduplication check means it is going to check whether these details have already been furnished in the GST portal or these are unique details. After carrying out a deduplication check, it would generate an invoice reference number, digitally sign the invoice and return back the JSON along with the QR code. I repeat, the process which is going to be there is this invoice registration portal will carry out a deduplication check with the GST portal, and after being satisfied that yes, this invoice is unique for this financial year, the details have not been repeated, in that cases it is going to digitally sign this and return back the digitally signed JSON along with the QR code, and that QR code will be having an embedded invoice reference number in it. So friends, this process is being done. The invoice comes back to the person who has filled form GST INV01. And friends, also this invoice registration portal will share these details. This invoice registration portal will share these details, will auto-populate the details of these invoices in the GSTR1 of the supplier. Friends, please understand, now when the invoice details have already been given to the invoice registration portal and the same details needs to be filed when I am going to file my GSTR1, so naturally this invoice registration portal will auto-populate these details in GSTR1. Friends, in case if this invoice happens to be an invoice for supply of goods and where e-way bill is required, the invoice registration portal would also auto-populate these details in the e-way bills portal, in the e-way bill generation portal. So therefore, the generation of e-way bill would also become automatic. So friends, this is the process, and furthermore, this invoice registration portal would also auto-populate the details of these invoices in GSTR 2A of the recipient. In GSTR 2A of the recipient also, these details are going to be auto-populated. So friends, this is the flow of the activity. The notified person who is supposed to issue an invoice in accordance with 48 sub rule 4, in the schema which is available, the standard template which is available, he will punch in the details. The system will accept the details only in the JSON format. So in the JSON format, the details are uploaded. The invoice registration portal would carry out a deduplication check. If it is found or if it is satisfied that the details are unique for this particular financial year, 1, it would generate an invoice reference number. 2, it would digitally sign the JSON. 3, it would attach the QR code to the JSON invoice. That QR code will be having an embedded invoice reference number and return back the invoice to the person who is wanting it. So now friends, again at the automation end, this invoice registration portal would automate the details in GSTR1, because these the same invoice is going to be uploaded in GSTR1 as well. So wherever e-invoice is being raised, the details would automatically come in GSTR1. Also these details would go to the e-way bill portal wherein e-way bill could be generated easily, and also these details would go and sit into the GSTR 2A of the recipient. So now friends, this is a sample e-invoice which is there before you. Here is the QR code. This QR code would contain an invoice reference number which is embedded in it. So there are government software which are available. You cannot scan this e-invoice using any QR code scanner. You can scan this only with the official app which is available. So once you scan this QR code, you will get the details of the invoice. And friends, here invoice reference number is mentioned. Friends, a quick question. When we read rule number 46 sub rule R, which spoke about the contents of tax invoice, did it anywhere tell you that the tax invoice shall contain invoice reference number? I repeat the question. 46 sub rule R, did it anywhere tell you that the tax invoice should contain an invoice reference number? The answer is no. The point was the tax invoice shall contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it. That means when you're going to scan that QR code, it should contain the invoice reference number. Invoice reference number as such is not mandatorily required to be printed on the invoice. This is an optional field. This supplier has chosen to print the invoice reference number on the invoice. It is his wish. Is it mandatorily required? The answer is no. So now friends, this QR code which is there, when you are going to scan this with the official app which is available, you will get these details: supplier's GSTN, recipient's GSTN, the document number, document type, date, total invoice value, number of line items, the HSN code, and you will get the invoice reference number. This is a 64-digit string. It will get the IRN date, and also it is issued by which invoice registration portal. And friends, it will say you whether this is digitally signed or not. Because friends, please understand, when the invoice registration portal is returning back the JSON, the invoice back to the person who has filed form GST INV01, it would contain an IRN, it would attach a QR code, and also it is going to digitally sign that invoice. So this official app would tell you whether this is digitally signed or not. So in this way, these credentials could be verified. Now friends, let's take another example. Let's say you find a tax invoice. You find a tax invoice which is containing QR code and also which is having something called as IRN. Can you conclude that it is an e-invoice? Can you conclude that it is an e-invoice? Friends, the answer is no. Point number one is, friends, IRN is going to be a 64-digit string, and it is not this number of digits which is mentioned in the screen in the invoice which is available in the screen before you. Second thing is, if we are going to scan this, using the official app, the details which are going to get, this is not a valid string, and here everything is going to be empty. The supplier's GSTN, recipient GSTN. So friends, this is not a valid e-invoice. So friends, this QR code which is there and this IRN which is there, it could be for some other individual or private purpose of this supplier. It is not that purpose which we are discussing right now in 48 sub rule 4. So friends, whatever QR code which is there, if you are scanning it through the official apps which are available, it would tell you whether this invoice has been registered with the invoice registration portal or not. In simple terms, in very, very simple terms, the moment you scan it and you get the details, it means that this particular document has been registered with the invoice registration portal. Now friends, few terminologies. What is e-invoice schema? Now friends, in India there are at least more than 300 accounting softwares. There is no machine readability which is there. The details which are entered in one software cannot be readily read by another software unless otherwise it is customized. So friends, e-invoice schema is nothing but the details are there in the standardized format. It enables machine readability. The data of one software can be read by another software. What are the advantages of e-invoice schema? As we said, it is automation is being enabled. The details of one machine can be read by another machine. Let's suppose, friends, I am using an accounting software, let's say Tally, and you are using an accounting software, let's say SAP. Now friends, e-invoice is applicable, assuming that e-invoice is applicable to me. Now friends, when I am going to raise an invoice, I am going to file something called as form GST INV01 and upload it in the common portal. The details which I am going to use, the details which I am going to file is going to be in a standardized format. So this form GST INV01 is going to be in a standardized format which my accounting software SAP is going to punch in these details, and these details is going to go to the common portal for the purpose of obtaining an invoice registration and IRN number. Now friends, let's suppose the accounting software which you are using. Now this accounting software is in a position to read details in a standard or codified format. Now friends, your accounting software can easily read the details which are available in form GST INV01. So friends, now machine readability is being enabled. My sales will automatically, or can in the longer run, it can automatically get recorded as a purchase entry in your books of accounts. This could happen when both these machines are understanding a common or a standard format. What is invoice registration portal? IRP is the website for uploading or reporting of invoices by the notified persons. What is invoice reference number? It is a unique reference number which is generated and returned by an IRP on successful registration of e-invoice. So now friends, here we go. We started with contents of tax invoice. Rule number 46 told you that the tax invoice should contain a QR code which is having an embedded invoice reference number in it. So this is the QR code and which is having an embedded invoice reference number in it. Friends, please understand, rule number 46 sub rule R never told you that the tax invoice should contain an invoice reference number. It told you it should contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number. So friends, just by if you are having a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it, it is sufficient. It is not mandatory to write the invoice reference number on the tax invoice. Now friends, if you could recollect rule number 46, you might have learned at one place that signature or digital signature is not required. Signature in the contents of tax invoice, you also did have signature or digital signature of the authorized agent, of the owner or of the authorized agent. There friends, in rule number 46, there was a proviso which told you that signature or digital signature is not required in case of an electronic tax invoice. Now friends, what was that electronic tax invoice? The electronic tax invoice was those which were issued in accordance with the provisions of Information Technology Act 2000. Now friends, this e-invoice which you are raising, can you call this as an electronic tax invoice which is issued in accordance with the Information Technology Act 2000? The answer is yes. So friends, in case of e-invoice which is being prepared in terms of 48 sub rule 4, now signature or digital signature of the owner or of the authorized agent is not mandatory. We are just linking the provisions. We have earlier, you might have earlier read signature or digital signature is not required in case of electronic tax invoice. This is the electronic tax invoice. Here the signature or the digital signature of the owner or of the authorized agent is not required. Now friends, what are the advantages of e-invoice? What are the advantages of e-invoice? Automation of tax relevant process. Now friends, please understand, what happens is there is always a gap between the transaction happening and between the reporting of transaction. Usually what happens is, first the transaction takes place. You make a supply, you raise an invoice, and then reporting happens. That invoice, at the end of the tax period, you are going to report it to the, let's say for the purpose of filing the returns, you are going to report it in GSTR 1. So first the transaction takes place and then there is reporting which is happening. There is a gap between transaction and reporting. So therefore, reporting seems to act as an extra compliance burden. Reporting seems to be as an extra work which needs to be done. Just reverse the process and visualize. First reporting happens, then the transaction takes place. First reporting happens and then the transaction takes place. What happens in the case of e-invoice? First you report, obtain an invoice reference number, then issue an invoice. Now friends, in these cases, it becomes a part and parcel of the business process. It becomes a part and parcel of the business process. Compliance is not to be seen as an additional work, because first you are going to report it, obtain an invoice reference number, then you are going to issue an invoice to your recipient. Now what happens? The moment you obtain an invoice reference number, you are going to report it to the invoice registration portal. There automatically it will go into your GSTR 1. If you want to generate an e-way bill, automatically it would go to the e-way bill portal, and also it would automatically go and sit into the recipient's GSTR 2A. So friends, wherever the sequence is being reversed, first report and then generate an invoice. In those cases, the business process, the compliance work becomes a part and parcel of the business process. And also friends, it is easier to clear the pending bills of this particular invoice. Now let's say, suppose friends, in this case, when an e-invoice is being raised, it is going and sitting in the GSTR 2A of the recipient. Now friends, in this case, the recipient is in a position to be assured of the input tax credits which are there. And also friends, in due course, if the invoice which is raised by the supplier automatically goes and sits as a purchase entry in his accounting software, of course there is no delay, there is no time gap for the invoice to be sent physically to the recipient then records it and then is going to clear. So therefore, the settlement of accounts will also happen in a quick manner. And friends, also the physical copy of invoices are not required in case of e-invoicing. If you could recollect, we had read rule number 48 wherein it told that if an invoice is prepared in terms of 48 sub rule 4, triplicate copies of invoice is not required in case of supply of goods. Duplicate copy of invoice is not required in case of supply of services. It is sufficient if you are carrying a QR code. So friends, the advantages are automation of tax relevant processes, integration with e-way bill returns, etc. It reduces the compliance cost. Now friends, if a transaction is happening and then GST returns needs to be filed, the registered person, the businessman, would go to consultants where they would get their GSTR 1 filed. Now friends, let's suppose if e-invoice is made applicable to all registered persons for B2B supplies and also B2C supplies. Just visualize. Friends, this is just the beginning. The government has started with people who are having huge turnover just to experiment. Slowly this turnover, this threshold is going to be shrinked, and that day would not be far where all the registered persons would be required to generate an e-invoice for all the supplies which is being made by them. Let it be B2B, let it be B2C. So friends, what would happen? Do you need to file anything extra in your GSTR 1? The answer is no. You report, obtain invoice reference number for all the invoices which is being issued by you. Your GSTR 1 is automatically prepared. So this would reduce the compliance cost. No hard copies of e-invoice is required, even in case of e-way bill. Friends, if you could recollect, in rule number 138, in those cases, what are the documentations? What are the documents which should go along with the movement of goods? You should either have an invoice or a delivery challan, and wherever the movement of goods is for a value, for a consignment value exceeding 50,000 rupees in case of interstate movement, e-way bill copy is also required. Now friends, in those cases, if you are having an e-invoice, hard copies are not required. Assured input tax credit, it automatically goes real time in GSTR 2A of the recipient. Early settlement of accounts, what we have discussed, that day is not far, where a sale transaction which is raised at the supplier's end automatically goes and sits as a purchase at the recipient's end. It becomes a part of the business process. It is not seen separately. The psychological effect is that you make a transaction, then report it. There you feel that as a separate compliance work. But however friends, you first report it and then you raise an invoice. That doesn't seem, it becomes a natural part and parcel of the business process. It is not to be seen as a separate compliance angle. What are the advantages to the tax administration? Auto matching of input tax credit claims. It reduces tax evasion. Friends, please understand, wherever there is a gap, wherever there is a time gap between raising an invoice and reporting it, wherever there is a time gap between raising a tax invoice and then reporting it, during this time gap, there is always a possibility that some manipulation happens. But friends, when both happen at the real time, that means you report and you raise a tax invoice in near real time basis, in those cases, the possibility of manipulation is reduced to a larger extent. So in that angle, it reduces tax evasion. Simplified compliance verification, better tax management, which means better usage of HR. So when technology is going to do most of the work, the other human resources which were available, which otherwise was doing this work, can be better utilized optimally for carrying out some other work. Providing tax relief and spurring economic activities. So friends, naturally when the compliance is going to increase, the tax evasion is going to reduce, the tax revenue is going to be on a higher side. Eventually the tax rates might come down on a lower side at some point of time. So friends, common portal. How many common portals we have seen? Now we know there are 3 common portals. One is for registration, payment of tax, filing of returns. That is www.gst.gov.in. Another common portal which we knew was www.ewaybillgst.gov.in. It was for the purpose of generation of an e-way bill. This common portal was managed by National Informatics Center. The first common portal is managed by GSTN. The third common portal is also managed by GSTN. The third common portal, what we have seen now, it is www.einvoice1.gst.gov.in, ranging till www.einvoice10.gst.gov.in. So 3 types of common portals which are there. 2 of them are maintained by GSTN and one, the e-way bill one, is being maintained by National Informatics Center. Now friends, what is the difference between e-invoice and e-way bill? Just a comparative analysis. What is the difference between e-invoice and an e-way bill? The transactions which are covered by e-invoice, it is B2B supplies and exports. E-way bill, the transactions which are covered, supply let it be B2B, let it be B2C, let it be exports. Also for reasons other than supply. Also for reasons other than supply, if there is a movement of goods, e-way bill is required. Applicability. It applies only for those registered persons who are having an aggregate turnover greater than 500 crores in any preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards. Of course, it is not applicable to Special Economic Zone unit, and of course, it is not applicable to those notified suppliers. Here applicability is if the movement is for a consignment value exceeding 50,000 rupees, which is caused by a registered person. Who can generate an e-invoice? Either the supplier or even the electronic commerce operator can generate the e-invoice. Who should generate or who can generate an e-way bill? Either the consignor or the consignee or the transporter or an e-commerce operator can generate an e-way bill. What are the documents? What are the documents against which e-invoice can be generated? Tax invoice, we have already seen. Credit notes and debit notes. Credit notes and debit notes also needs to be registered on the invoice registration portal, and invoice reference number needs to be obtained. Friends, please understand the word e-invoice is misleading. The word e-invoice is misleading. It is applicable not only to tax invoice. That means tax invoice alone should not be registered in the invoice registration portal. Tax invoice, debit notes and credit notes, all of them have to be registered in the invoice registration portal, and invoice reference number needs to be obtained. E-way bill, the documents covered are invoice and delivery challan. If the movement of goods is for supply, it is covered by invoice. If the movement of goods is for reasons other than supply, it is covered by delivery challan. Are there any relaxations? Yes, for specified entities, as we have seen, Special Economic Zone unit and those specified suppliers. Is there any relaxation for e-way bill? Yes, there is goods based relaxation. Say for example, in case of exempted goods other than de-oiled cake, e-way bill is not required. However, friends, for exempted goods, is e-invoice required? The answer is yes, e-invoice is required if the person is notified. If the person who is supplying these exempted goods, if is notified for the purpose of 48 sub rule 4, and if it is a B2B supply, even for exempted goods, e-invoice is required. So e-way bill, are there any relaxation? Yes, you have goods based relaxation, area based relaxation and miscellaneous relaxations which are available. What's the common portal? You have e-invoice 1 to e-invoice 10. Here the common portal is e-waybill.gst.gov.in. Friends, we are discussing the amendments with regard to contents of tax invoice rule number 46. We have just completed 46 sub rule R, that is QR code, which is having an embedded invoice reference number if invoice is issued in the manner prescribed under 48 sub rule 4. Now we move on to the 6th proviso to rule number 46. Let's have a look. It tells you, provided that the government may, by notifications and on the recommendations of council, subject to such conditions and restrictions as mentioned therein, specify that the tax invoice shall have a quick response code. So friends, 6th proviso to rule number 46 also tells you that the government by notification will tell you that which type of tax invoices or tax invoices issued by whom shall have a QR code. Now friends, please understand there are two different QR codes which are there in rule number 46. One QR code we have already completed, rule number 46 sub rule R. That was a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number. 6th proviso to rule number 46 also tells you that the government by notification will specify that a tax invoice shall contain a quick response code. Now friends, what is this quick response code containing? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the notification 14/2020, which is issued for the purpose of 6th proviso to rule number 46. In exercise of the powers conferred by the 6th proviso to rule number 46, the government on the recommendations of the council hereby notifies that an invoice issued by a registered person whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards exceeds 500 crore rupees. Exceeds 500 crore rupees, other than these registered persons, other than those who is referred in 54 sub rule 2, 3, 4, 4a, that is those notified suppliers, or other than a registered person referred in section 14 of the IGST law. That means an online information database access and retrieval service provider who is located in the non-taxable territory and who is supplying services to a non-taxable online recipient. The example what we had seen, let's say the example of Netflix. Netflix is an OIDR service provider who is located in non-taxable territory And let's suppose you have subscribed to Netflix as a non-business account, as an end user for your personal use. So you are a non-taxable online recipient. So in this case, Netflix, the invoice which is issued here by Netflix, for him this notification is not going to apply because these are the excluded class of registered persons. So now friends, let's read it again. Under 6th proviso to rule number 46, the government notifies that an invoice issued by a registered person whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year from 1718 onwards, if it is exceeding 500 crore rupees other than the specified registered persons, then the supplies which are made by them to an unregistered person shall have a dynamic QR code. Please understand friends, let's understand the background of this. 14/2020 tells you that invoice which is raised by those registered persons whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 1718 onwards, if it is exceeding 500 crore rupees, other than these registered persons. Who are those other than these registered persons? Other than your specified suppliers and other than an OIDR who is supplying services to a non-taxable online recipient. They have, or the invoice which is issued by these persons should contain a dynamic QR code. And invoices issued to whom? It is invoices issued to an unregistered person. Let us discuss these elements one by one. Now first of all friends, what is a dynamic QR code? Now friends, you might have seen a QR code. Let's suppose you go to a mall. You go to a shop, and after you complete the shopping, you want to make a payment. There, while making a payment, on the slab, on the billing desk, you might see a small poster, or you might see a small pamphlet which is stuck wherein it is carrying a QR code. Whatever is the bill amount which is there, you can just scan this QR code. And you can make the payment. Now friends, is this a dynamic QR code? Now friends, what do you mean by dynamic QR code? Dynamic QR code means the QR code should be unique for an invoice. Is this QR code unique for an invoice, or is it a standard QR code which is applicable for all the invoices? Let's suppose you go for shopping, your friend goes for shopping, anyone goes for shopping. The QR code is fixed. It is static. Any person is going to scan this. It is going to contain to whom the amount is going to be transferred. You can punch in the amount and the amount can be transferred to the particular supplier. Now friends, here the requirement is not of a static QR code unlike what is there on your screen. The requirement is of a dynamic QR code, which means the QR code is going to be unique for each invoice, which means that the moment you are going to scan the QR code, it is directly going to give you the details of the invoice. Directly, you need not even punch in what is the amount which you need to transfer. The amount which needs to be transferred is also automatically going to come to your mobile screen. Thereafter, you can just transfer the amount. So QR code here is going to be dynamic, which is going to be unique for each invoice. So now friends, what is the requirement? The requirement is these suppliers. Please understand, these suppliers. Which suppliers? All suppliers whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year exceeds 500 crore rupees other than this specified suppliers, and also other than OIDR. Other than these registered persons, any registered person whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 1718 onwards, if it is exceeding 500 crore rupees, then the invoice which is issued by them for B2C supplies should have a dynamic QR code, which means the QR code should be unique to each invoice, wherein the buyer can straight away scan the amount, the details of invoice would come, the amount also would come, he just needs to transfer the amount. So friends, what is dynamic QR code? Dynamic QR code is going to be unique to each invoice. Is it applicable for all registered persons? Please understand, 6th proviso to rule number 46 asks you to have a QR code. Is it applicable for all registered persons? The answer is no. It is applicable to only those registered persons whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards exceeds 500 crore rupees. The next question, is there any relaxation amongst these notified registered persons? Yes. Even though your turnover might be greater than 500 crore rupees, still, if you happen to be any of these specified suppliers, or if you happen to be an OIDAR sitting in non-taxable territory supplying services to a non-taxable online recipient, then this notification is not applicable to you. Is it applicable for all the supplies which are made by notified registered persons? The answer is no. It is applicable only for B2C invoices. It is applicable only for supplies which are made to unregistered persons. What is the purpose? Friends, what is the purpose of this QR code? Friends, the earlier QR code what we have seen, rule number 46 sub rule R, which means that for notified persons, the tax invoice should contain a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it. What was the purpose of that QR code? The purpose of that QR code was real-time reporting. Before you raise an invoice, report the invoice to the portal, to the invoice registration portal. Obtain an invoice reference number and then issue the invoice to your recipient. So first reporting happens, then you give an invoice. The moment reporting happens, auto population happens in GSTR1, auto population happens in the e-way bill portal, auto population happens in the GSTR2 of the recipient. It is near real-time reporting to the portal, thereby minimizing the reasons for fraud or minimizing the tax evasion. We have discussed at length what are the advantages of those, or what was the purpose of that QR code. So friends, the QR code in 46 sub rule R, that QR code having an embedded invoice reference number, what was its purpose? Its purpose was to register the invoice in the invoice registration portal and only then issue the invoice so that the subsequent frauds can be stopped and advantages can be reaped. So the purpose was near real-time reporting. The purpose was registration of the invoice. What is the purpose of this dynamic QR code? Friends, the purpose of this dynamic QR code is to enable or is to encourage digital payments. The purpose of this dynamic QR code is to encourage digital payments. Friends, please understand, wherever there is tax evasion in case of B2B supplies, let's suppose I am a GST registered person, you are also a GST registered person, I make supplies to you. Let's suppose I do not issue an invoice. I make supplies to you. I do not report this transaction to the government. Now friends, in this case, still there is a possibility which is left to the government or which is left with the government that this evasion can be found out. How it can be found out? The government, let's suppose in the course of audit, it is verifying or it is inspecting your books of accounts. From there it gets a lead that I have made supplies to you for which I did not issue an invoice, I did not report this transaction. The government has got a possibility in case of B2B supplies wherein if the audit is done in the premises of one person, leading that there could be various leads which comes wherein certain other registered persons are also found who has evaded taxes. But friends, in case of last mile transactions where the supply is happening directly to the end consumer, the supply is happening to an unregistered person, the supply is happening to an end consumer. In those cases where those type of transactions are not reported to the government, it is very difficult for the government to find out these type of tax evasions, because here the government is not going to get any lead. The end consumer is not a GST registered person. For the inward supplies what he is making, for the purchases what he is making, obviously he is not going to maintain any books of accounts because that is for his personal use. It is for his personal consumption. He is an end user, end consumer. So in the last mile transactions, it becomes very, very difficult for the government to find out tax evasion as compared to B2B cases where tax evasion is there, because there certain leads could be found out, certain hints can be captured. So friends, how to arrest these type of last mile transaction? Here, encourage digital payment facilities. When you encourage digital payment facility, what happens? What happens is end user makes the payment using digital payments. He electronically discharges his invoice. Whatever he is supposed to pay against this invoice, he is electronically paying it. So the moment the amount is coming into a bank account, now the trial is created. It would be difficult for this type of supplier for him to evade the taxes. So friends, here the purpose of this particular QR code, which is there in the 6th proviso to rule number 46, is to promote digital payments, and the objective behind promoting digital payments is to arrest the last mile transactions. Now friends, you may question, agreed that this is the intention of the government, but why should an end user, or what is the incentive which is available with the end user so that he chooses digital payments? Now friends, please understand, can the government force the end user, the end consumer, to make payment only using this QR code? The answer is no. There could be a QR code which is dynamic. The moment it is scanned, the amount would reflect and the amount can be transferred by the end user to the supplier. But is it mandatory for the consumer to do so? The answer is no. The consumer might want to pay cash. So friends, what is the incentive which is available with him so that this objective of the government is satisfied? There is going to be a lottery scheme which is going to come. Still it is not there. In due course, you would be reading that there's going to be a lottery scheme which is going to come for all the payments against a GST invoice which are being made scanning this dynamic QR code. For all such end users, there is going to be a lottery scheme where some lucky winner is going to win some prizes. So therefore, this would in turn encourage the end users to make digital payment, which would again satisfy the objective of the government that last mile transactions are arrested. Now friends, is there any legal provision? Now here friends, it tells you that the contents of tax invoice for these notified registered persons, they should have a dynamic QR code. They should have a dynamic QR code which is printed on their invoice, using which the buyer can make digital payments. Is there any section? Is there any particular provision in that which mandates the supplier to do so? Friends, please understand, you would have already read this section 31A. The government may, on the recommendations of the council, prescribe a class of registered persons who shall provide prescribed modes of electronic payment to the recipient of supply of goods or services or both, and give an option to such recipient to make payment accordingly in such manner and subject to such conditions and restrictions. So section 31A is telling you the government can notify a class of registered persons. Those class of registered persons, for the supplies which they are making, they have to provide an option to the recipient to make digital payments. Whether the recipient is making digital payment or not is the option or is the choice of the recipient. The supplier has to give an option to the recipient to make digital payments. It is under this section 31A that the 6th proviso to rule number 46 has come. So now friends, as regards as applicability is concerned, I am sure we are clear by now. The applicability is registered persons other than these specified suppliers, other than OIDR sitting in non-taxable territory supplying to non-taxable online recipient, other than these registered persons, all registered persons whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards, if it is exceeding 500 crores, that particular registered person has to have a dynamic QR code on his invoice for all B2C supplies which are made by him. For all the B2C supplies which are made by him. Now friends, you might have noticed that it is not always that these dynamic QR codes are printed on the invoice. There could be a case where there is a dynamic QR code, but it is not available on the invoice. It is shown as a digital display. Let's suppose you go to a mall, you go to a shop, you carry out the shopping, and after it is done, you go to the billing. At the billing counter, when the bill is being generated, the amount which is there, the QR code in the display, in the computer system or the billing system of the supplier, he just places a screen before you and he shows you a QR code. The digital display of a dynamic QR code, and asks you, you want to scan and make a payment. So you scan it, it is a dynamic QR code, it is unique to each of the invoice. Directly the details of invoice comes, amount also comes, you just make the transfer. Now friends, please understand, dynamic QR code was shown as a digital display against which payment was made. Now friends, please tell me, in such type of transaction where payment was made against a dynamic QR code which was shown as a digital display, should the invoice again carry a dynamic QR code printed on it? Or it is sufficient to have a payment reference number? Payment reference number is nothing but the reference number of the payment which was being made against the dynamic QR code. Friends, it is sufficient if that particular invoice against which payment is made scanning the dynamic QR code shown as a digital display. In such cases, the payment reference number is sufficient. Please read the proviso. Provided that where such registered persons makes a dynamic QR code available to the recipient through a digital display, such B2C invoice which is issued by the registered person containing the cross reference of payment using a dynamic QR code shall deem to be having a quick response code. So friends, I am sure you are clear with this. What is the purpose? The purpose is to arrest last mile transactions. How is this purpose being achieved? Sixth proviso to rule number 46 tells that the registered or the notified registered persons in their invoice shall have a dynamic QR code printed. Now friends, again there is a notification which also carries a proviso. The proviso tells you that in case if dynamic QR code was shown as a digital display and payment was made using that dynamic QR code on the digital display, then it is sufficient if the invoice is having a payment reference number. The dynamic QR code need not be printed on the invoice again. I'm sure you're able to follow this, friends. So tax invoice, the contents, either it will contain a dynamic QR code against which you can scan and make the payment, or if the dynamic QR code was shown as a digital display, you can scan that, make the payment, then that invoice will contain a payment reference number. So friends, we have seen two types of QR code in rule number 46. Rule number 46 sub rule R. We have seen a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in case if invoice is issued in accordance with 48 sub rule 4. Sixth proviso to rule number 46. It tells you that certain notified persons against the invoices which are raised by them shall contain a dynamic QR code. Now friends, let us try and differentiate between these two types of QR codes which are available. We have already discussed everything, just the concluding remarks. 46 sub rule R read with rule 48 sub rule 4. Sixth proviso to rule number 46. Purpose. The purpose of this is to just check whether invoice has been reported to invoice registration portal or not. The QR code, when you are going to scan it, it is going to give you the details of invoice. It is going to tell you on which date was this invoice reported to the invoice registration portal. It is also going to tell you whether this invoice has been digitally signed by the invoice registration portal or not. So the only purpose is to check. On scanning the QR code, you will be able to check whether this invoice has been reported to invoice registration portal. What is the purpose of the dynamic QR code, which is there in sixth proviso to rule number 46? It is to facilitate digital payments. Who are the notified suppliers? Aggregate turnover greater than 500 crores in any preceding financial year starting from 17-18 onwards, other than special economic zone and these specified suppliers. Here, aggregate turnover greater than 500 crores other than OIDR, supplying services to a non-taxable online recipient, these specified suppliers. Friends, please understand here, special economic zone, there is no relaxation. In sixth proviso to rule number 46, there is no relaxation which is given to a special economic zone unit. That means a special economic zone unit whose aggregate turnover, if it is exceeding 500 crore rupees, for the invoice which is issued by them, it has to contain a dynamic QR code. The class of supplies, B2B and exports. Sixth proviso to rule number 46, the class of supplies is B2C. Who generates this QR code? It is the invoice registration portal which is going to generate this QR code and give it to you. As regards as this dynamic QR code is concerned, it needs to be generated by the accounting software of the taxpayer himself. There is no common portal available which is going to generate this QR code and give it to you. What are the contents of QR code? It will contain IRN embedded in QR code. Here it is going to contain a link to the payment. The moment you scan this QR code, it will give you the details and it will lead you to the bank account of the supplier wherein you can transfer the amount. Documents, it is for tax invoice, credit note and debit note. Sixth proviso to rule number 46, it is for tax invoice. Miscompliance. In case if invoice is issued in accordance with 48 sub rule 4, in case if invoice is supposed to be issued in accordance with 48 sub rule 4 and if it is not so done, then the invoice shall not be treated as a valid invoice. Here there is no specific penalty which is available. So what is the general penalty is going to be applicable for miscompliance of sixth proviso to rule number 46. Now friends, please understand, both are mutually exclusive. One particular invoice will not contain both these QR codes. Either it will contain 46 subrule R QR code, or it will contain QR code as mentioned in 6th proviso to rule number 46, because one is for B2B and one is for B2C. Both of these QR codes are mutually exclusive. Now friends, this is all about the amendments which was there in the contents of tax invoice. Now friends, another analysis, contents in the bill of supply. Rule number 49. Friends, by far we have completed as regards as the amendments in the contents of tax invoice is concerned. Now we move on to the amendments in the contents of bill of supply. If you look into rule number 49, which speaks about bill of supply, it also has got a proviso which is similar to the proviso, 6th proviso to rule number 46. It tells you, provided that the government may, by notification on the recommendations of council and subject to such conditions and restrictions, specify that the bill of supply shall have a QR code. Shall specify that the bill of supply also shall have a QR code. Now friends, please understand, evasion takes place at the last mile transactions, and at the last mile transactions, it could be a bill of supply as well. It could be for exempted supply. Exempted supply is not reported. Please forget GST. It would not be reported if exempted supply is not reported. Maybe there is no loss in GST, but there could be a loss of income tax. So friends, in case of last mile supplies which are there, over there also in rule number 49, 6, there is a proviso which is similar to the 6th proviso to rule number 46, which tells you that bill of supply should also contain a QR code. However friends, if you carefully look into the notification 14/2020, which is issued under the 6th proviso to rule number 46, it does not have any mention to rule number 49. I repeat, 14/2020 has got a mention only to the 6th proviso to rule number 46. It does not have any mention to rule number 49. Furthermore, in the entire notification 14/2020, the wordings used are invoice. It doesn't speak about bill of supply. So friends, technically speaking, even though in rule number 49, in the contents of bill of supply, it specifies about QR code being there even in bill of supply. However, upon reading notification 14/2020, this notification is only for tax invoice. For bill of supply, there is no notification which is being issued. There is no notification which is being issued. So friends, technically speaking, let's suppose as a registered person whose aggregate turnover is exceeding the threshold and is not exempted, for the B2C supplies which is making, if he is issuing a bill of supply, which means if those supplies are exempted, technically speaking, it need not contain a dynamic QR code. It need not contain a dynamic QR code. Technically speaking, 14/2020 is not applicable to him, and there is no other notification which is issued specifically for rule number 49. However friends, the advisory which is there in the GSTN, Goods and Services Tax Network, and the FAQs which have come out, there it is specified the intention of the government is that even a bill of supply should have a dynamic QR code. But technically speaking, it is not there. At the implementation level, the government is implementing it even on bill of supply. So friends, the various documents which are available, let's have a final look. Where is e-invoice applicable and where is e-payment facility applicable? So this e-invoice 46 sub rule R, e-payment facility 6th proviso to rule number 46. For tax invoice, e-invoice is applicable, yes. Bill of supply, no. Receipt voucher, no. Refund voucher, no. Payment voucher, no. Self invoice, no. Revised tax invoice, credit notes and debit notes. Now friends, again technically speaking, 46 sub rule R is only speaking about contents of tax invoice. The rule which is speaking about contents of credit notes and debit notes, there is no mention that credit notes and debit notes should also be registered with the invoice registration portal, and that also should have a QR code having an embedded invoice reference number in it. There is no such provision specifically speaking about it, but at the implementation level, the government is also implementing it for credit notes and debit notes. One reason could be, if you look into notification 13/2020, here it tells you If you look into 13/2020, here it tells you he shall prepare invoice and other prescribed documents. So maybe the notification is hinting that these other prescribed documents are credit notes and debit notes. So friends, at the implementation level, technically and strictly speaking, credit notes and debit notes need not be registered with the invoice registration portal. But however, at the implementation level and looking into the vague wordings of the notification, credit notes and debit notes also is to be registered with the invoice registration portal. Friends, please don't get misguided by the name e-invoice. E-invoice doesn't mean that you should register only the tax invoice. All the tax invoices, all the credit notes, all the debit notes, before being issued, should be registered at the invoice registration portal. The word is e-invoice, but it is applicable for invoice, credit notes and debit notes. The portal is invoice registration portal, but it is applicable for registration of invoice, credit notes and debit notes. The word IRN stands for invoice reference number, but it would also generate a reference number for credit notes and debit notes. So the reference number generated for credit notes and debit notes also will be called as IRN only. Please do not get misguided by the names which appear. So invoice of input service distributor, no. Delivery challan, no. So friends, out of all these documents, which of the documents has to be registered with the invoice registration portal? It is a tax invoice, credit notes and debit notes. Now friends, as regards as e-payment facility is concerned, 6th proviso to rule number 46, as regards that is concerned, it is only tax invoice. Tax invoice should contain a dynamic QR code. Friends, as regards as bill of supply is concerned, technically it is no, but however government is implementing it at the policy level, at the implementation level, even bill of supply is being asked to contain a dynamic QR code. So friends, this was all about the discussion about two types of QR codes which were there, the amendments which were there in the contents of tax invoice. 46 sub rule R, 6th proviso to rule number 46, two different QR codes, both of them mutually exclusive. We have covered them at length. We have also seen there is a provision rule number 49 containing the contents of bill of supply, although there is no such notification, wherein it is mentioning that bill of supply should also contain a dynamic QR code. However, at the implementation level, the government is implementing it.
Subscribe to LearnCap and hit the bell icon to get notified.